The rise of Islam in Europe. Siener van Rensburg foresaw waves of foreign people entering Europe in large numbers. He described a time when prayer calls would echo across the cities, and veiled women would fill the streets. He saw minarets rising across the skyline, symbolic of a new religious and cultural presence dominating the continent. These events were not local or temporary, but widespread and enduring. He saw that this influx would not be met with resistance at first. The European nations would be spiritually weak, fragmented, and lacking conviction, having long ago turned their backs on Christ. In vision, Siener watched as Islam spread rapidly, not merely through violence, but through a persistent and determined religious zeal, something absent in the increasingly secular West. Civil unrest and the collapse of European order. In his visions, Siener described a Europe that fell into confusion and unrest. As Islamic influence grew, he saw riots and terror, with streets filled with chaos and governments paralyzed, unwilling or unable to act decisively. In some countries, he saw civil war breaking out, with native populations divided, some paralyzed by political correctness, others finally rising up in rebellion, though too late to reverse the tide. He foresaw large cities burning, churches desecrated, and Christian symbols being pulled down. He witnessed waves of terror, not just physical acts, but a spiritual fear choking the continent. The people, having rejected their faith, would no longer have the inner strength to stand against what had come upon them. Islam as divine judgment on apostate Europe. Siener did not view Islam as a merely political enemy, but as a divine instrument of judgment. Just as Babylon and Assyria were used in ancient times to punish Israel for its apostasy, so too would Islam become a rod in the hand of God against a Europe that had abandoned its covenant with Christ. In symbolic vision, he saw the light of Christian faith dimming, replaced by a harsh foreign light. He saw crosses fading from church steeples replaced by crescent moons. Europe's fall was not because of Islam's strength, but because of its own spiritual emptiness. The enemy was allowed to enter because the gates of faith had already fallen. The spiritual war and the clash of faiths. Behind the external conflict, Siener perceived a spiritual battle. He saw angels withdrawing from European lands while dark spiritual forces advanced. He warned that this was not just a cultural struggle, but the manifestation of a deeper war between light and darkness, truth and deception. In this war, Islam appeared fervent, united, and purposeful, while the West was divided, indifferent, and spiritually dead. He saw that unless Europe turned back to Christ in repentance, prayer, and fasting, it would fall not only politically, but eternally. The war of ideologies would end in divine purification, not human victory. The call to repentance and the future restoration. Though he saw great destruction and shaking, Siener also foresaw that a remnant would awaken. Amidst the collapse, he saw kneeling figures in white repenting before God. He prophesied that this remnant, purified through trial, would form the foundation of a renewed Christendom. This revival would not come through politics or war, but through a return to holiness, humility, and worship. From the ashes of Europe's fall, a new Christian order would rise, one no longer defined by national pride or empty rituals, but by true submission to the will of God. This new church would stand as a beacon amid darkness, even as the rest of the world trembled in judgment. Visionary symbols of judgment and purification. Siener saw several symbolic visions indicating divine judgment through Islamic advance. A white ox trampled by dark horses, symbolizing Europe, the ox being overrun by foreign powers. A flaming sword hovering over cities, then striking down, representing divine wrath. A crumbling cathedral with people fleeing from it, symbolizing the collapse of institutional Christianity. A river of fire flowing from the east, representing not only war, but spiritual confrontation. A cross buried in sand, later uncovered and lifted, signifying that though faith would be buried, it would rise again after tribulation.